So this is Living Spec. Living Spec is a collaboration platform for product teams to more efficiently share their ideas, even if they're messy, early and often. When you first get into Living Spec, you'll see a collection of example documents. Some of them are more literal, like how do you get started with Living Spec? Some of them are more creative, like how would you build Super Mario Brothers from scratch? Which is kind of fun because obviously Living Spec and web platforms didn't exist in 1985. But if they did, how would you go about it? How would you classify like the gameplay, the characters? And one of the powerful things of Living Spec is you can link things together and sort of share relationships between them. So you can see, for example, that this Mario character is referred to by all sorts of different parts of your specification for your Mario game. You could clone this example and create your own version of Mario, or you could simply create your own new document, or you could import a document from an existing source like a Word document or HTML file or whatnot. But we'll just go ahead and create a new document. We'll do example spec document and create it. And what you'll see is you start out with kind of an empty canvas, sort of an index page. Maybe rename it to something that is more memorable for you. And what a document is a set of permissions of users with permissions for those users. So you can add people to your document if you want to by inviting them as readers, admin users, collaborators, or you can also just create an open invite link if you don't have their email address handy and share that with them via Slack or something similar. And what you do is just start editing. So you're like, this is going to be sort of our top level index page. Living Spec kind of has these fundamental building blocks like pages, tasks, files, people, and then a lot of utilities and tools on top of them. But it doesn't assume a lot about, hey, you have to put this in the right structure, the right order. Instead, we feel like things are messy and we want to make it easy to move things around. So I often start in lists. So I might start with like, oh, maybe we've got a roadmap and maybe we have some planning, and maybe we have, say, some use cases. And what we can do is we can highlight that list and turn them all into child pages. So we're able to easily find things by linking them together. So this creation of the page creates children. So if you look at this sort of preview graph, you can see our index page now has 3 child pages linked to it. So I can go into one of those and I could go into use cases. Use cases is just one of many formats you might use to sort of describe what a product needs to do efficiently. We use that internally for Living Spec as our preferred format of describing things because it really forces you to just distill things down to a nice, concise manner. So we actually provide these snippets which allow you to quickly insert a predefined set of text and structure, so you don't have to remember exactly how you typed it before. So here we've got our scope, and our scope is, so say we're defining a new use case for Living Spec itself, then maybe it's the Living Spec product is the use case. And then you define who the actors are. So, it might be the author of the spec and maybe a collaborator of the spec. And the secondary actor might be the system, it might be an integration. And so a success scenario might define what you're trying to achieve with this use case. And so here you'll see our AI tool for sentence auto-completion suggested a use case that the user will be able to automatically successfully complete the desired task. So let's go ahead and add that. So what we're doing here is we're adding a use case to describe how to do a task within Living Spec. So we could say that the user, well, let's say the author or user highlights some text, and user presses, they press a toolbar button or keyboard shortcut to convert that text into a task reference. And then if I could spell correctly, of course, then the user accesses the task through the sidebar. So what we like to do is have our content and our tasks side by side so that you can view them together. And then the user can provide information and updates about the task. And then finally, user can close task when completed. Now that's a very loose spec. There's obviously a lot more details to it. There's also extensions. So for example, when you're pressing when you're accessing the task through the sidebar, an extension might be that what happens when you change pages. So what you can say is when user changes pages, keep the task open. And why is that important? Well, a lot of times what happens when you are working with systems is if you change pages, it closes all the stuff you had open. But in our case, we're moving around a spec, and maybe this task is relevant to multiple pages. We don't want to hide the thing we're working on, so we keep that open as we explore our document tree. So now for each of these, we could turn them into pages, we could turn them into tasks. But let's say we really want to focus on this accessing the task to the sidebar. So we can convert that into a page, and we could go into that. And now we could create some tasks around it, right? So we could basically say that we need, and I'm in a shortcut. Obviously, there's a lot of detail you could provide here. But I'm going to say that we need to basically define forms for the task. We need to have a tab system, a sidebar system, we need to have a graph to show context. I'm always making typos during demos. It makes it more interesting, exciting, and fun. And let's see, what else can we do? We might need various filters, search, and the list gets quite long. But what's cool is a lot of these things are going to be reused by other parts of our application. So they might already exist, and so we could just cross-reference them. So if something already existed, like say, well, let's go ahead and create one for search right now. But now suppose we're in a different use case, which is the user can close the task when it's completed, right? So let's turn that into a page. And so now one of the options might be to search to find the task. You're like, well, wait, I already implemented search. So how do I reference that? Well, you can just press hash symbol to start searching for things we've already added. So in this case, we can type #SE until we see search in the list, highlight it, and now we've got a cross-reference to the search that we already added elsewhere in our spec document. So it becomes really interesting as this powerful way of cross-referencing things you've already defined instead of having to replicate them or find the right page number they were on or the right file they were in or things of that nature. So we have pages, files. Files you can just drag, upload them automatically. If they're audio or video files, you can transcribe them, which is pretty cool using AI. If they're audio files, you can play them in line. If they're video files, you'll soon be able to watch them in line. And there's a lot of things you can do then to sort of make things more useful. So you can add tags to pages so you can make them more easy to find via search or classification. And then you can even define dynamic pages. So this initial page we had for all of our use cases, right? If we wanted to sort of create an index page above this, right? So this is kind of one use case we put in the wrong spot. So what we can do is we can highlight it and move it to a page below. So we can rename it as something like task closing use case or something, or just task closing, for example. And then under our use cases page for task closing, we could just, for that page, give it a tag. Maybe the tag is use case. So we add that. Now, at our use cases, we could actually go back up to the top level and define a dynamic page, which is use cases index. Okay, So if we want to convert this to a dynamic page, we just press this button to convert to a dynamic page. And the difference is the dynamic page gets generated based on a set of criteria. So we can define a section. The first section could be use cases, and we could add everything that matches a tag. And so now you'll see task closing shows up in this list dynamically. So it's a pretty cool way to sort of aggregate data without having to manually maintain a list. So we use this a lot for sort of our sprint plan for the week, or the current milestone we're working on, or to sort of aggregate all the information across a spec document based on a specific set of features or requirements. There's a lot of things that could show off in the product, but I'll just show a few more things quickly. For each sort of feature type, you can import them via email, sort of forward us an email. You can import them via this new option to import a page or a document. You can clone any example document or any existing document. You can do lots of things with files. There's lots of dashboards to sort of view everything that you've added or that you're working on. So see, my particular scenario has lots of files and lots of documents and lots of things that have been worked on. You can integrate with a variety of task systems or Slack to synchronize data between systems. So you could use Living Spec's task system in context, but also synchronize the task system you're already using. You can see a list of all the things you've invited someone to or that someone's invited you to. You can see a history of notifications. Mine is quite large, so it's going to take a couple seconds to load. But basically it'll show you for the past month everything that's changed. And what you can do is view a side-by-side diff of the information before and after. So in this case, the title changed from empty to job to be done theory. So what's cool is you can see all that information for all the users that are connected to you on your documents in Living Spec. We have one really awesome feature that you might have seen before, which is we have this concept of account fusion. And the idea is you can be logged in as all your email personas or all of your personas at one time. So say you have a personal persona, a work persona, and a nonprofit persona. And maybe you have 2 or 3 email addresses for each of those. Maybe you have like your first name at whatever and your first initial last name at whatever, and people indiscriminately invite you to documents based on those different email addresses. So you can organize them, and you don't have to switch accounts. So if you get invited to the wrong email address, when you receive that invite and you accept it, you can choose which account and which persona within your account that belongs to without having to painfully log out or log in. It also means you can search across all of your personas and quickly switch your workflow between them without having to do the painful thing of which account was that again? How do I search that? Oh no, that was my personal one. I gotta switch tabs or switch accounts and switch contexts. So that's a pretty powerful feature we have. We also have search within the application, and search is basically real-time, local. So we can quickly search, and all of this searches against stuff that's stored in memory in your browser. There are many, many things you can do with Living Spec. This just scratches the surface, but I invite you to give it a try and let us know what questions you have and what features you'd like to see now or in the future. Thank you.